What's up, chat? Happy Mushoku Monday. Happy Mushoku Mondays, everybody. Welcome back to yet another Trek the Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation novel series. We are on Jobless Oblige, part 6 of 6 at this point. This should be the last one. This should be the last Jobless Oblige. By the way, that's a damaged shipment. Don't get at me in the comment section. It was a damaged shipment. It's one they said just throw it away, so I thought I would use it as a prop, even though it's technically a pile of anyways. But that aside, that eventually I'll make a video on that whole situation. I keep saying I'm gonna do it, but I've been waiting for like a good version of it to actually arrive at my house, not damaged. We'll see. But anyways, hey chat, welcome to Premiere. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Monday after Mushoku Monday. But yes, I greatly appreciate you guys' kind words, your support, and yes, even the VOD watchers. Hit that like button, VOD watchers. If you don't, hey, VOD watchers out there, outdo the Premiere watchers because they don't hit that like enough. I think the VOD watchers hit the like button more. I think they like my videos more. But I appreciate you guys' support and all that good stuff. But yes, I also greatly appreciate my support channel monetarily through Patreon, tips, links, super thanks, memberships, all that stuff. Thank you. Last week, Rose Moist with a whole bunch of supers like always. Just sprinkling them like crazy. Yes, in 26 months at this point, thank you so much for your ongoing support. And Nicholas with 31 months. Every time I see the 30 pluses, it scares me. Like, holy crap, I'm doing this. Because I think I started the memberships like way into Mushoku Monday. So that tells me how many months, at least for Mushoku Monday, we've been doing, because a lot of the memberships was around Mushoku Monday. And yes, thankfully, a lot around, Nicholas and everybody that's been giving a lot of gifted subs and memberships. But anyways, thank you guys so much for your support. It means a great deal to me. But yes, well, that said, I don't really have anything, I don't think, from last week to really cover. We could probably jump right into this, again, what I'm assuming is going to be the final part. We got pretty much the same amount of pages as last week, so we can probably do this, but let's just dive right into it. I was expecting to say a chapter name, and I don't have a chapter name on my screen. The continuation of a chapter. After that, I went around the marketplace to say goodbye to everyone. The fruit shop owner, the liquor store owner, and many other acquaintances as well. When I told them I was leaving town, they were all very sad to hear it. But none of them tried to stop me from going. If I looked at it negatively, I could take that as a meaning that they didn't really like me as much as I thought. Yeah, that's a misread real bad right there. I would assume that all these people don't want you to leave, but they want you to seek out your dreams. Why would anybody not want you to seek out your dreams? And again, that goes to everything about him misreading Rudius. And yes, a lot of that comes with Rudius, not properly, explaining things to them. But the misread is the idea that you don't really have these really formative experiences with people that really tell you, yeah, they probably mean well. Oh, you never read that people are supporting you properly? You're going to suspect that nobody is supporting you. We all thought it wasn't good for you to drift around aimlessly, Sieg. Now that you made a decision like this, we're kind of relieved. Hearing words like that, I realized it was probably the opposite. Yep. Thanks for everything you've done for us. I was told such words from people whose faces I didn't even remember. My father said that there were people that I had saved. Even if my hero act was just a way to vent my frustrations, in the end, there were people who were truly helped by it. That's really interesting. Again, he just established in the previous chapters that, yeah, he's finally recognizing that he was just doing this to vent frustrations. Even though in his act, he's literally going, I have to save lives. They're hurting people. They're harming people. In his inner dialogue, it's talking about how this will cause harm to people. I have to stop this. This is doing this. This is horrible. These people are being kidnapped and sold. These drugs are going to harm people. Even though in his mind at the time, he's saying, I have to stop this to save lives. Now that he's established he was only doing that to vent frustrations, it's almost like he doesn't want to accept the good in it. Like he doesn't want to accept the credit. Almost like he's disconnected the idea that he was ever trying to save lives because it was all about venting frustrations. Now he's once again accepting the idea that he was technically helping people. It's very interesting. Thinking about that, leaving this town made me feel a little lonely. In the middle of all that, I spotted a certain man. By day, he worked in a marketplace, and by night, he went into a rundown tavern to drink and deal in information. Yes, it was Georges. Our little geese. Yo, Georges, I'm grateful for all the care I've received from the Grey Rat family, but my name isn't Georges, you see? Don't talk like that. We're friends, aren't we? We've had plenty of good conversations together. Hearing you call me a friend is really an honor, but... He averted his eyes. Maybe he'd planned on never seeing me again. I wrapped an arm around his shoulder. Thanks to you, I was finally able to move forward. Thank you. When I said that, George's face turned serious, and then he gave me a wry laugh. I see. Good for you. But now, my job's gone. Business is terrible. What am I going to do about that? Looks like somebody's going to have to hire him. Come with me down to PAX. You can help us down there as information broker or something. My little sister's looking... Oh, gosh. Remember the one I told you about? Yeah, she needs an assistant. My little sister's looking for an assistant. If you say that I introduced you, she might hire you. Really now? If you sell the information that you get as her assistant to Papa, your finances will pick up too. Oh my gosh, dude. He assumes that he was probably selling the information to Rudius too, I bet. Can't argue with that. Georges laughed. Then he put his hand around my shoulder in return. This past year's been pretty fun. That's what he said, smiling at me. That's cute. Finally, I went to see my master. Just like the other day, my master was sitting with his back facing the entrance. However, it didn't seem like he was training. That face. Looks like you couldn't defeat the Dark Shadow, huh? My master said that without turning around. Of course, he still hadn't faced me. If you're going to say something like that, at least turn this way first. He just assumes that he lost. Also, the name my father used was Moon Shadow, not Dark Shadow. Yeah, I realized that. What you need is a sword, don't you think? He's like getting him ready for the next battle. You forgot this part of the whole routine. You forgot the sword. As he said that, my master raised something up. My sword. My beloved sword was in his hand. I could have sworn that I left it in my room. He must have taken it yesterday. This is turning out to be the best part of this entire, like, future arc stuff. Like, I like a lot of the older stuff, just because it's around PAX Jr. I eat that stuff up. This later stuff, like, the only part that I really like is just, like, their interactions. The two of them. I kind of wish that there was more between the two of them. Yes, now is the time for you to take up the sword. To defeat evil stronger than yourself. For the sake of justice. My master spun around with great energy. Then, striking a pose, he shouted with enthusiasm. And now, I shall bestow upon you the final technique of my North God-style swordsmanship. And the title of North Emperor. Accept it now. Silence followed. Gonna get Emperor. W? It seemed there was a bit of a misunderstanding between the story my father and my master had cooked up. My father just wanted to have a conversation with me, but my master apparently didn't. He wanted to drag me onto the path of becoming a hero. Between my hands-off father and my master, who wanted to give me a firm direction, I won't say which is better. It's just a difference in approach. I mean, it's an assumption, right? Rudius is hands-off as a father. He's wanting to support him, but Rudius doesn't have a pre-established, like, thing that he's building on with Sieg. With Alec, his master in the swordsman style, he was asked by Sieg to train him, and thus this is the next step to that training. This is kind of disconnected in my mind. They're two different things, two completely different things. Again, I don't think it's that Alec is trying to force him to be a North Emperor. He was asked to train him, and this is the next step in that training. Rudius is just being a father. Oh my, that face. You look rather refreshed. Anyways, my master seemed to sense something by looking at my silent expression. Could it be? You actually defeated him? You won against that guy? That Rudius? No, I mean, the leader of the evil legion, Dark Shadow? That slip. No, not Rudius. I mean, no. It's not like I defeated him or anything. I see. So, you did defeat him, barehanded. No, but he spoils his children, so maybe he went easy on you. Yeah, and... My master mumbled something under his breath, then clapped his hands together. This guy's a dork, I love him. He must have come up with some foolish idea. They should have had more of him in this entire story. They should have had more of him. Sieg, it seems you've safely defeated the Dark Shadow, but he's the weakest of the evil organization's leaders. And now it changes. And then this is changing now. Go to the place I'll tell you about now. There you will find Inazuma. Yes, the very same Inazuma who defeated you before. Until you defeat him, evil cannot truly be considered vanquished. He's like, yeah, Rudius probably let him win. I'm going to have to face him now. As expected, he was hopeless. That place is... Master, I'm not going there. I spoke with a stronger tone than usual, and my master stopped mid-sentence. Then he looked at me with a puzzled expression. Why not? Because there's another place I need to go to. And where's that? My master's tone was surprisingly gentle, completely different from just a moment before. To a friend Is your friend in danger? I don't know, but before, he asked me for my help. He wanted me to fight alongside him. That always weighed on my mind. That's why I'm going. That was all I said. I had gotten tired of explaining the same thing over and over again, but I also figured that my master would understand with just this. I see. So, do you need a sword? I actually really relate to this. This is more in the idea that, yes, he's having to go everywhere and explain to everybody what he's doing, why he's doing it, and it gets tiresome after a while. But I hate whenever, like, yeah, say you're leaving a job and there's a lot of people that are employed there. Like my last job that I had, I'd been there for years. And so when I went to go leave, like literally this place with, 90 people working there, everybody comes to my office to ask what happened, where am I going, what am I doing, and all this kind of crap. And it's like, oh, okay, I have to explain this again. Or like, yeah, when my father passed away, it was like, holy crap, suddenly everybody's, calling me up and asking me like, how am I doing, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, dude, I'm just tired. There was some people that I love the fact that, and this kind of taught me something. In that situation, there's some people that come in and say, you've probably had to explain this a million times, just know I'm here. Like, you do not have to explain anything. I'm not going to ask you if you're okay. I'm not going to bug you to try to explain that you're okay. Just if you need something, tell me. And it means a lot when you've gone through that so many times and you have to relive it by re-explaining it to people what you're doing and how you're doing. Anyway, sorry, side tangent. It just reminded me of that. I see. So do you need a sword? It seemed my master understood after all, as expected of my master. I do. I'd appreciate it if you could return it to me. Very well. With that, my master sheathed the bare blade and handed it to me. A sword heavy enough to weigh down my arm. It was my beloved sword, commissioned by my father. It was custom made by a renowned blacksmith, the ore god himself. Yeah, I think I mentioned that before. Crafted to suit my naturally strong arms. The blade was jet black, like obsidian, blending seamlessly into the darkness when wielded at night. Only the moonlight's reflection would reveal its presence, and the dragon god, Lord Orsted himself, had given it a name. Moon Glitter. Of all names, what is that name? Moon Glitter. See, Orsted likes you guys. He's playing into it too. He's totally playing into it too. He really likes this moonlight thing. Let's go ahead and call it Moon Glitter. You'll like that name. That'll make that poor little kid smile. The Sword of the Moon. Sieg. Yes, I'm not very good at teaching through words. My head isn't that sharp, you see. That's true. So, let's have one last sparring session. Are you going to teach me a secret technique? No, there's no such thing. Just the usual training. Yeah, I was kind of wondering about that, because he was mentioning something about giving him a technique and the title. Granted, the only real kind of example that we have is a Sword God style. And the Sword God style, they gave him the Sword of Light, and that was to Saint tier. And beyond that, again, they were mentioning the fact that it's just titles. And again, there could be multiple emperors and whatever. So it's just based on whatever, power you're at, and you get that bestowed title. So they really shouldn't have a technique for the Emperor style. So technically the North God style could be similar to the Sword God style. No, there's no such thing. Just the usual training. Yes, sir. I attached the sheath to my belt and drew my sword. The moment I did, our training began. I wonder how long it's been since he's wielded a sword. I guess he technically probably wielded a sword when he was training at the academy, unless they just had wooden swords. But probably nothing this heavy. The moment I did, our training began. In the North God style, there was no begin signal to start practice. It had been a long time since our last training session. I went at my master with everything I had, and as expected, I was utterly defeated. Not quite ready to take the God title, right? At the end of the day, my master took me along to a certain house. It belonged to a man he called a friend. The man was very wealthy, fat, and lecherous. We know that is going to be. We know who that's going to be. And his friend? We call him a friend? What? A nobleman through and through. When I apologized to him for what I had done the other day, he forgave me with a warm, cheerful smile. He looked every bit the villain, and his speech and behavior were crude and vulgar, but his welcome was warm and courteous. Just as my father, my master, and his new wife had said, he was merely a man honest about his desires, not an evil person. So he's basically Rudius verbally. Because Rudius is always thinking about this stuff. This guy just doesn't have a filter. His lecherous thoughts just come right out of the mouth. It's probably like Paul, I guess. But again, a noble and rich and all that kind of stuff. Okay, only the lecherous part is like Rudius, okay? They're nothing alike, just the lecherous part. It made me realize that I had failed to uphold my master's third teaching. Don't judge good or evil by appearances. You'll surely become a hero. On our way back, my master suddenly said that. It came out of nowhere. Ever since long ago, my master and I had often talked about what it meant to be a hero or an ally of justice. Yeah, this is kind of a very interesting thing for him specifically to bring up. There was always a gap between our views. My master aimed to become a hero, while I aimed to become an ally of justice. Two things that seemed similar, but were fundamentally different. It was only natural that there would be a huge gap. Yeah, technically, an ally of justice is somebody that's not necessarily looking for any sort of approval. They're not looking for an achievement. It's just that they seek out to exact justice. In a lot of cases, they do it at night. They do it in the veil of shadow. It's like a Batman kind of thing. With a hero, there's somebody that just does a feat, saves the world, conquers this evil that is, threatening mankind, and through that, even if they don't necessarily want it, they get the approval of the people. So one is going to stop something evil from happening, whereas one is essentially exacting some sort of internal justice. They see a wrong and they know a right. So again, like he's saying, it's similar but different. I don't think so. What do you think is the most important quality a hero must have? When I heard this question before, I answered, an ally of justice makes a choice without hesitation. To that, my master replied, a hero chooses after agonizing over it. I kind of agree with this, but I think a lot of this is really, again, borrowed from Kalman II. I can see this being something that he learned from Kalman II, or something that he learned after being defeated, but a very, very thoughtful answer. Choosing after great suffering? Yes, I want to be a hero, but it's probably impossible for me. I don't agonize much, you see. Ow, now I kind of want an extra chapter with him actually becoming a hero for something. And again, this is similar to Kalman II. At the later parts of there, when he was literally sacrificing himself for Rudius to get away, and he was talking about that he would never be a hero, I'm like, oh, I want him to have that moment. I want that moment for him. I want him to live through this so that he could be acknowledged for what he did right here. Again, that to be wrote in the stories, that he did this big, great sacrifice. But yeah, that's sad. And again, that technically does play into the very brief history that we got of him. When they got into him, again, him going out to the Vegric continent and Geese coming to see him, he wasn't being a hero. He was just defeating something strong so that people seen him as a hero. He wasn't saving people. He wasn't stopping an evil that was threatening things. He was just going by the playbook. The playbook said that he did this part. He didn't read anything around it. He just read that this part happens in it. That was really incredible. Oh, I like that part of the story. Let me just do that part, and I'll be a hero, right? No, you're missing everything that came before it, which was a setup about how people were suffering because of this thing, and then he came in and saved them. He doesn't think about it. Thus, I didn't agonize over if I should take down that beast or not. I just went there and killed it. I don't have what it takes. I was the opposite, despite aspiring to be an ally of justice. I wavered and agonized. I agonized and agonized, unable to choose. Yet I pretended to be an ally of justice anyways. But in the end, I did choose. I made my decision. Looking at it objectively, it was certainly the kind of action a hero would take. Yeah, I think he had his heart in the right place. I just think that, again, what we found out was that it wasn't something that he was doing because he cared. I think to be a hero, you have to care. I think a lot of people will do things and other people will benefit from it and they will call them a hero, but you need something to care about. Otherwise, who's the next target? I think the idea of somebody not having some sort of objective that is seen as empathetic or something, or caring, without that present, you're afraid of what might come following it. Who will be the next target? You can do it. It seems like you couldn't become an ally of justice, but you can become a hero. Interesting. So they separated the two of them, said that whatever you were trying to do isn't it. And that's interesting because technically, again, what he got this sense of an ally of justice from was the stories that Rudius did. And yet he got all of his training and whatnot from Kalman. And so here, after everything, it's saying you could never be these stories that Rudius made. You can become what I was attempting to become. My master couldn't become a hero, and I couldn't become an ally of justice. Ironically, it seemed my master was closer to become an ally of justice instead. Okay. My dear disciple, sir, will you carry on your master's will? Aww. Again, it's sad. He went on this long hero's journey to become a hero. In the end, he becomes a good boy, and he gives up on that dream. I'll never be able to think enough to be able to do that. Ugh. It's that bloodline, the fool's blood in him. I quietly shook my head. You still have a long life ahead of you, Master. So, I won't inherit anything yet. You should keep working towards your goal yourself. Good job, boy. Good job, boy. Good job, boy. You're right. I'll do just that. My master declared it firmly, without a trace of hesitation. What a cute end to that story. Good boy, Sieg. The next day, I prepared to depart. I had already said my goodbyes yesterday. Jeez, slow down. I hate these stories where they're like, I made this decision and they like literally have to leave the next day. Like, prepare a little bit. Settle. There was nothing left to hold me back. Before leaving, I simply told my mothers, I'm off. Each one of them saw me off with their own words. My father had gone out early in the morning and didn't seem to be home. I wanted to at least say a few words to him, but there was nothing I could do about that. He's gonna be at the teleportation circles or something, because I'm betting C's gonna go and use the teleportation circles. Unless he's gonna walk, that would be dumb. It's gonna take him way too long to get there. If he's like, I have to leave right now, within 24 hours after the discussion, he's probably wanting to get there quick, and so teleportation's probably best for him. Thinking that, I walked through the town. Mother had suggested that I ride a horse part way, but I wanted to walk. The marketplace where adventurers and merchants without shops roamed. The shopping district where mid-level merchants held lively negotiations. The clanging sounds of blacksmithing and the ever-present smoke of the workshop district and the massive grounds of the Magic University. I'd seen all the streets every day, but knowing this would be my last time gave me a strange, sentimental feeling. Eventually, I reached the gate. The walls of my hometown, the magic city of Shiraya. The gate was wide open. As I stepped outside, I noticed a man sitting by the side of the road. A middle-aged man dressed like a magician, wearing a gray robe. Okay, I was about to say, dude, if he actually left on some job and didn't say goodbye to his boy, I'm like, oh my God. Why are these side stories trying to assassinate his character so freaking bad? It was my father. When he saw me, he stood up, brushed the sand from the hem of his robe, and came over. Hey, Sieg. Papa, what are you doing here? I wanted to see you off. Mom and the others already saw me off at home. I thought this place was better. I guess it didn't really matter where it was, but I see now. My father must be thinking of this departure as a true send-off. That's why he chose the gate. Thank you. I really wanted you to see me off too. Of course, my son is setting off for a new path. It's only natural. Catch. My father said that and picked up a bag that he had set down beside him, tossing it to me. When I caught it, it was the size of a human head and felt very heavy. I had a bad feeling about this. I opened it to find my master's head. There, now you can be the North God. I got you a title. It's called the North God. Here you go. Father, why'd you get Master's? Did you kill Master? He's there. Hey, kiddo. Because you got the demon blood in him. Okay, sorry. My brain went down a rabbit hole. None of that's true. I'm sorry. He just threw him a bag. Can catch myself. There's a lot of people that haven't read this yet. I had a bad feeling about this. Still, I opened to check the contents. Papa, this is... What came out was a black helmet. A full-face helmet with a crescent moon emblem engraved on the forehead. The helmet of the Ally of Justice, Moon Knight. Take it with you. Why? This past year, you've been doing things differently from what you truly wanted. But surely, not all of it was meaningless. I wasn't so sure about that. I definitely felt like I'd wasted the year. If I had talked to my father sooner, things wouldn't have turned out this way. Yeah, technically true. He kind of wandered a bit. I think a lot of... Technically, I think the clarity that he got was half from his master. His master kind of jostled him quite a bit there to make him realize that he was just lashing out. I think from that point on, he could have really corrected his path. Because he just needed to realize that what he was doing was deluding himself. Because again, as we were reading through the series, there was notes there were hints. But overall, we were getting a lot of his inner dialogue that was basically saying, I'm doing good. I'm saving people. Now again, he's making the decision on what's good or not good, which is technically a bad thing in some people's eyes, but he was deluding himself in the end. He got that corrected by his master, and then he went to see Rudius, and Rudius basically told him that he doesn't need to, beat himself up anymore, basically. He doesn't need to lash out because he has a path, he has a future that he can go towards. If you ever find yourself in trouble again, look at that helmet and remember, sometimes the moments you think were wasted hold the answers you're looking for. As he said that, my father looked past me, Behind my back, drawn by his gaze, I turned around as well. There stood the gates of the magic city of Shiraya. If I walked through those gates, the similar town I lived in for over 10 years would greet me. When I returned after studying at the Asura Royal Academy, the townscape had changed quite a bit, but there were also many things that hadn't changed. My sisters, both older and younger, had hardly changed. Neither had my mothers, nor my master. The way I saw my father, however, had drastically changed. But that was only because I misunderstood him. If I thought of that wasted time as what cleared up that misunderstanding, then perhaps it truly wasn't wasted after all. That's it's an interesting way of looking at that. I'm not really entirely following that. I get what it's saying, but at the same time, that's a bit much. Interesting though. What it's saying is because I had this misunderstanding, when I was coming back, this wasn't a wasted year because I undid that misunderstanding. The unfortunate reality is that it's just thinking about it in the reverse. Before he thought this was wasted because he misunderstood that. And he's going, don't worry, because it's not wasted because you undid that. But that's the reason. It's okay, whatever. Again, it's an interesting way of looking at it, I guess. It's a glass half full mentality. It's really what it is. It's a glass half full. Man, you've wasted half of that glass, but there's still half of it left. It's literally what it's saying. Anyways, sorry. I understand. I'll take it with me. If you want, you can even use it over there. After all, that thing's pretty sturdy. Then maybe I will. Oh, if I meet someone over there that wants to become an ally of justice, maybe I'll let them borrow it. That's a great idea. If that happens, I'll send you 4 more. He's digging into that whole Sentai thing. I'll make sure they're different colors, too. He joked about forming a moonlight squad or something like that and laughed again. It wasn't exactly a clever joke, but something about it struck a chord with me. I laughed too. After we laughed together for a while, I said, well, I'm off. Yeah, do your best out there. With a firm slap on my back, my father sent me on my way. I turned my back to my hometown and set off towards my friend's place. It's a pretty chill goodbye, to be honest. I was actually expecting to get wrecked right here. The moment that he's seen Rudius at the gate, I'm like, oh gosh, it's going to hit me. But again, my brain can't ignore the fact that there's teleportation circles. It's odd that it's seemingly implying that he's going to walk there. I'm not sure that he's actually going to use them, but Rudius will use them. I have no doubt Rudius already went there and made a teleportation circle. Like, he literally probably did it last night. I'm going to run over there real quick and put down a circle and then rush back to the gate before he leaves. It's like when I arrived there, I met with Pax, and immediately Rudius was there at his side. Hey, son. Anyway, sorry. Chapter 14, now my best friend. I think this is the last chapter, isn't it? No, we got one more chapter after this. There's 2 more chapters. It was a nameless land, a patch of land about the size of a cat's forehead, a bit to the southeast of Red Dragon's lower jaw. What is a cat's forehead? Common saying in Japan that to indicate that something is very small. Okay. It was an enclave owned by the King Dragon realm. However, there was only a few poor villages and a small dilapidated fortress that was on the verge of collapse. There wasn't even a local lord. Okay, so there's already a fortress of some sort that they can technically build on. There was several reasons why no one lived there. One reason was its proximity to the jungle. Whether it was the curse of the ancient dragons or the sand blown in from the Beggaric continent, the jungle was teeming with vicious monsters. The sand blown in from the Beggaric continent? Is it that close? Question mark? Not that it's close, but like the wind can carry it. It's literally like over a puddle. Because the Beggaric continent's just to the west. I mean, that's a large water mass there. I can see winds carrying stuff a long distance, so it's just a very interesting kind of way of saying that the monsters were carried by the winds. That must be some odd phrasing there. It was said that even seasoned adventurers would surely lose their life if they ventured into the forest. Another reason was that country that held the Red Dragon's lower jaw always kept a watchful eye on the area. If one were to send in a force large enough to develop the jungle, that country would surely interfere. It wasn't a nation strong enough to go to war with the King Dragon realm, but there was no way they would willingly allow such a great power as the King Dragon realm to establish an important base in their backyard. And if a force large enough to push back such interference were sent, the Kingdom of Asura would surely find an excuse to meddle as well. Yeah, I'm already seeing more and more that this is going to be something that's going to cause some sort of friction. And again, technically he was already bringing that up with Rudius. We could become enemies. This is going to be an opposite to what it seemed like I thought you wanted. Another reason was that it was simply too far from the King Dragon Realm's heartland. To travel from the kingdom's capital to this territory, one had to either make a wide detour around the King Dragon Mountains or cut straight to the dense jungle. Even for a great nation like the King Dragon Realm, leading a large army through another nation's land would require significant political maneuvering. Sometimes even bribes. Yeah, again, that's such a massive distance there. I mean, just looking at the map, which is, as accurate as it can probably be, it is a significant route. Cutting to the jungle, full of deadly monsters, required no politics, but the price would be countless soldiers' lives. There was other reasons as well. At any rate, the King Dragon Realm had repeatedly tried to develop this land, but had always failed to do so. Into this forsaken place, a man was sent as lord. His name was Pax Chiron Jr. He brought with him only a handful of subordinates, barely more than a dozen. It was a strikingly small number. Past lords had arrived with retinues, numbering in the hundreds, soldiers, servants, and attendants, but Pax came with very few. The steward managing this fortress welcomed him. He could have treated Pax poorly, knowing that the man would either flee or be devoured by monsters eventually, but he chose not to. For one thing, continuing to manage a lordless fortress was pointless. For another, he knew that even a useless royal, cast off to such a place, could still have his head if treated disrespectfully. It's a big reason. However, Pax turned out to be even more practical and intelligent than the steward expected. The first thing Pax did was gather people. Yeah, I'm kind of wondering if the individuals that he brought could potentially be people that he met in the King Dragon Realm. Potentially some people that he recruited at the university, which is less likely because, again, it's so far away. Those individuals are probably from local. I mean, he could have probably met some people that were sent up there as well to be, trained there. Or if a lot of it's going to be people from the slave trade. The first thing Pax did was gather people. Using his small group of followers, he recruited villagers from the surrounding poor villages and settlements. He selected especially capable and ambitious individuals, educated and trained them, and made them his subordinates. The rewards that he could offer were meager, but many young people preferred to have that over wasting their lives in a dying village. So more came to Pax than anticipated. Next, Pax approached a lumberjack guild in a neighboring country and arranged to sell timber from his domain at dirt cheap prices. Normally, selling timber across borders involved high taxes, making it very expensive, but Pax secretly sold it off at a bargain price without informing the kingdom. After all, no one was around to complain in this distant land. Clever. Clever. Very clever. I'm wondering if they're going to imply that all this happened while Sieg was gone. And they're going to find out that he literally gathered all these people, trained them, educated them, all within a span of a year. And we'll see. But again, we don't know if Pax actually walks there or if he teleports. If he walks there, it could take, depending on what he does along the way, it could take a year. But it seems like he wants to get there quickly. He then used his men to provide cheap security for the Lumberjack Guild's logging operations. Once again, at ridiculously low rates. Cheap timber, cheap protection. With the money he had earned, he hired foreign workers for cheap, and then cultivated the land that the Lumberjacks Guild had cleared. At first, things were rough. The villagers he recruited were mostly useless, and the cheap foreign workers were barely competent. Pax personally went to the sites many times, directing operations himself. Sometimes he even fought monsters, risking his own life to protect his people. The hardships lasted for quite some time, but Pax steadily introduced new policies, gradually expanded his territory. Problems arose along the way, but Pax solved them one by one with great care. As a result, his businesses grew, and he began to gain more resources and manpower. Things were going well, until one day, when a unit... Oh, please don't. Please don't. Oh, this is going to be so trope if they do this. Please, Refugin, don't have Pax has been doing this entire time, and he's super resourceful, and he's super smart, and he's super clever, and he's doing a really good job in saving his people and protecting them. And then one time when he's about to die, Sieg Saladin Greyrat appears at the last second to save them all. Don't do it. Refugin, do not do it. Don't do it. Things were going well until one day when a unit of Lumberjack Guild turned up mysteriously dead. It was a gruesome scene. Each corpse had a massive hole in its chest and had been laid face down at the base of a tree. The guards were among the dead as well. So this is a person that's doing this? If they're actually laying the bodies out like that? At first, everyone assumed that was work of monsters. They thought a pack of monsters had attacked them and wiped them out. There was even evidence of uneaten remains, which were, though rare, wasn't unheard of. Such things happened in the forest. Even with the protection of strong guards, accidents like this were common. Forests were terrifying places. But then it happened again, and then again. The Lumberjack Guild units were wiped out repeatedly. Even when they increased the number of guards, it didn't matter. They all died. Every time, the victims were found with a gaping hole in their chest, laid face down beneath a tree. This wasn't the work of monsters. It was Sig, Saladin, Greyrat. There was a culprit. Someone was killing strong lumberjacks and their guards, then laying them down face down beneath trees. A thrill killer, perhaps. Or someone who didn't want to see the territory expand. Yeah, I kind of wonder. Maybe somebody from the conflict zone or somebody like an assassin from Ostra Kingdom? ? The Lumberjack Guild declared that they would not enter the forest again until the cause of this mysterious death was discovered. Thus, Pax needed to uncover the cause. Fortunately, thanks to the success of his earlier policies, he now had a little leeway to work with. Using those resources, Pax invited several skilled individuals from a mercenary guild in a neighboring country, people who seemed capable, and with them as guards. He personally set out to investigate the reason behind the killings. He's going to do it. Fujin's totally going to do it. I thought for a minute it was sidestepping so much that it couldn't do it. That was going to be a thing where he was like at the edge of his rope, like, what am I going to do now? And then Sieg shows up and he's like, oh, no, you can help me with the situation. He's going to go out there himself. The original subordinate he brought with him were people sent by Rudius. They were all highly capable and obedient to Pax's orders. Even so, he chose not to use them, because there was a chance that spies sent by those who resented his rapid rise might be amongst them. Damn, Rudius, even the people that you sent, he's like, I don't trust him. Yeah, Rudius didn't figure it out enough. I don't see Rudius finting. I don't see Rudius doing very well with this stuff. I mean, he could use a lot of information that Orsted has about the people, but again, things have changed in this particular timeline. If such people were left unchecked, it was clear his efforts would eventually collapse. Pax conducted multiple investigations. He created a map of the dense jungle area and marked the locations where the Lumberjack Guild's units had died mysteriously. Among the mercenaries was a former informant whom he had tasked with investigating the backgrounds of suspicious subordinates. As a result, Pax was relieved to confirm that there was no traitors amongst his own people. Then, one day, he discovered the cause of the deaths. He realized that there was a common factor among the trees that the lumberjacks had been laid down in front of. They were all Bashikara trees that were over 100 years old. These trees only grew in the jungle region and were extremely rare, making them incredibly valuable. Some of these trees where the bodies were found weren't just over 100 years old. They were over 400 years old, massive in size. So Pax hadn't immediately noticed that they were the same kind of tree. However, one of his subordinates was knowledgeable about trees and confirmed they were indeed the same species. Is it going to be a treant? If the Lumberjack Guild doesn't know that something is a treant, that'd be very odd. However, one of his subordinates were knowledgeable about the trees and confirmed they were indeed the same species. Wondering what was so special about these trees, Pax decided to break off a branch and take it back with him. And, before he realized it, he was surrounded. Those around him had dark brown skin and wore primitive clothing. Okay, some sort of... Okay. It's not going to be treants, just like some tribe. They accused Pax, shouting, "You broke the branch of a sacred tree." They were speaking in fighting god language. Pax understood the language and tried to apologize. Look, he's going to put into effect what he was talking about before. He's going to put into play what he was talking about before, the idea of the sea folk, learning the sea folk language. Yeah, you want to learn it so that if you do something that sort of messes with them, you could possibly correct it and avoid, some sort of war. However, his guards couldn't understand them. Hearing the hostility and hearing an unfamiliar tongue, they drew their swords and attacked without waiting for Pax's instruction. Man, it wasted. Like you're going to bring up this whole thing and waste the whole thing, again, just to allow Sieg to come in and save him. They fought fiercely and were annihilated. Even after all of his men were slaughtered, Pax continued to try to negotiate. He explained that he was from the King Dragon realm and apologized for trespassing into their territory, as well as for breaking the branch. If possible, he said, he wished to make peace with them. I'd wondered if you'd be able to make peace with them. If you're planning on going through that forest and cultivating and everything, you might not be able to work with them. However, when they learned that Pax was the leader, they joyfully tied him up. Pax was taken deep into the jungle, to their settlement. Everyone there had dark skin and black hair. From what he had learned at school, Pax deduced that they were likely a type of human native to the Begaric continent, probably an indigenous tribe that lived deep within the jungle. So did they travel across there when possibly the water was frozen? Or possibly by boat? I don't think they'd ever implied the idea of a low tide or something like that, bringing the water down enough to be able to travel across there. But knowing that didn't help them in the slightest. Pax was dragged before the tribe's chief. The chief didn't give him a chance to defend himself. Upon learning that Pax was the leader of those who tried to cut down their sacred tree, the chief declared that Pax would be offered as a sacrifice to their god on the night of the next full moon. Moon night. This is going to turn cheesy, isn't it? It's going to turn so cheesy. He's going to arrive at the full moon, the moon night. From then on, Pax was kept in a wooden cage placed at the center of the settlement square. He was given water to drink, but no food, likely to empty his stomach in preparation for becoming an offering to their god. Each night, the tribe shaman would come before him, light a bonfire, and perform frenzied rituals, half mad with zeal. Thus, the days dragged on, one after another. Pax tried to escape several times, but the cage, though made of wood, was sturdy. Even if he managed to break out, every warrior in the settlement was stronger than him and intimately familiar with the terrain. There was no way he could get away. Eventually, the night of the full moon arrived, and of course, the night of, let's make a big theatrical thing, he's about to die, and then Moonlight shows up. Eventually, the night of the full moon arrived. The entire settlement gathered. Pax was dragged out of the cage by powerful warriors, forced to his knees before a bonfire, then thrown face down and pinned to the ground. The moment the axe... You're going all the way, Refugin. When he saw the short blade in the shaman's hand, as the prayers continued, Pax struggled wildly. He screamed desperately. He shouted that he couldn't die here, begged them to spare him. He listed all the reasons why he needed to live, all the reasons why he wanted to live. In the end, he even resorted to pitifully beg for his life. But they were merciless. When the shaman finished his chanting, he pressed the short blade to Pax's back, right over his heart. Then he raised it high. Geez, they're going for the last second, too. Super cheesy. Stop! I don't even know if I should do, like, the whole Moon Knight thing, because it's so cheesy. I don't know, let me see if I can see some stupid quote down below. No, I don't think it's going to do it. A voice thundered across the square. It was an incredibly loud, powerful voice. The shaman froze mid-motion. And I even hate that whole trope, because it's like, what are the chances that they're going to actually listen? And the villagers that gathered around fell silent in shock. The warriors looked around frantically, trying to find the source of the voice. But even with the full moon, it was night. From the bonfire-lit square, they couldn't see into the depth of the forest. The chief stepped forward and shouted, "Who is there?" Huh? The fighting god language? A muttering voice answered. Some of the warriors spotted the figure upon hearing it. The intruder was directly above them, standing atop a tree. His silhouette could be seen with a full moon in his back. Yeah, we're leaning in heavy on this. The warriors raised their spears and torches, illuminating the figure. I don't know that it works like that. Raising torches and stuff doesn't work like that. It's not like it's a flashlight. You could raise the torch and it just beams the light at him. That doesn't work like that. It actually makes it more difficult. That's so cheesy. Come on. The newcomer was dressed for travel. He's literally just arrived right now. What are the odds, dude? It's so cheesy. You put way too much cheese on this bread. The newcomer was dressed for travel, a hemp cloak, slightly ragged pants, and well-worn sword, the appearance of an ordinary travel you can find anywhere, except for his forehead. On his forehead, he wore a jet black helmet. He's wearing it. I should have done the voice. He's actually wearing it. A helmet that completely covered his head, with a crescent moon emblem engraved on the forehead. The sight was so strange the villagers froze in their tracks, holding their breath. Me? I traveled all the way from the magic city of Shiraya to save my friend. The man in the helmet paused for a moment. He hesitated for an instant, unsure of what to say. He's like he wants to say Moon Knight. But then he spoke out loudly with a hint of excitement in his voice. I'm his ally, Sighard. He finally accepts him for himself. He's not going to hide who he is anymore. Oh, cute. At that name, at that voice, Pax's eyes widened. Here I come. With a shout, Sieg leapt through the air, spinning as he landed right in the center of the square. Sorry for keeping you waiting, Pax. Sieg? How? Why? It's a long story, but information brokers will tell you about anything if you pay enough money. Like your location, for instance. Then, using tracking techniques my master taught me, finding the village was easy. Though Sieg made it sound simple, the truth was it had been incredibly desperate. To be honest, when he first heard from the steward that Pax had gone missing, his mind went blank. When he seen the half-rotten corpses on the bashakara tree, his vision nearly went dark again. With his heart pounding, he followed the trail relentlessly. And when he finally found Pax, it had been in the nick of time. If he had been a few moments later and shouting, he wouldn't have made it in time. Yeah, that's the cheesy part. Yeah, thanks for pointing out the cheesy part. Whoever you might be, this is a sacred ritual. You dare to. I am the disciple of the North God Kalman III, the North Emperor. He got it. He got the title. Again, I think we mentioned that before in one of the other side chapters, but still cool. North Emperor Sieghart, I have come as a guardian of my friend Pax. If you wish to kill my friend, you will have to defeat me first. Sieg's thunderous voice drowned out the village chiefs and shook the surroundings. That voice, brimming with confidence, made the surrounding warriors recognize that to carry out this ritual without first defeating this guardian warrior would be an insult to the gods, and the very name of the North God ignited their fighting spirit. The two warriors holding Pax released him and struck the ground with the butts of their spears. Following their lead, the other warriors began striking the ground. Dawn, dawn. The chief, seeing this, closed his mouth and, as if to say there was no other choice, shouted at Sieg. I am Purple, chief of the Ubaba tribe, North Emperor Sieghart. I swear to the gods that our warrior will defeat you and punish the evil who has defiled our sacred tree. Then I shall declare my name once more. Purple, chieftain of the Ubaba tribe. I am the North Emperor Sieghart. I swear by my great father Rudius, once my sword defeats your warrior, you shall become Pax's friend. What? What? This is getting this is getting more cheesy. And I shouldn't be bothered by this, honestly. I'm not really bothered by this chapter being this cheesy, this played out, this trope filled, because we've been this entire volume. This entire side story has been nothing but cheese, right? We're amping up right now because we're going to totally play out this thing where he defeats the warrior and this entire tribe becomes like under Pax as friends or whatever. And now they start working along side by side. And it's like, this would never happen in literally any scenario. But we're going to do it here because, you know, power of friendship and friends. He's going to totally win over this entire tribe that's been here for generations because of the power of friendship. You become Pax's friends. Question marks practically appeared over both Pax's and the chief's head. They didn't really understand the meaning of Sieghart's vow, but interpreting it as essentially meaning, let bygones be bygones, the chief nodded. He struck the ground with his spear and shouted, Very well, then let this loser swear to uphold the vow of the victor. Swear to all the spirits that govern this world that you will honor each other's vows. I swear. Purple, chief of the tribe, also swears it. Pax, thoroughly, utterly bewildered, also gave his confirmation when prompted by the chief. Now, step forward, mighty warrior, Herpel. Purple, Herpel, Herpes? I'm waiting for Herpes to pop up. What are these names, dude? The sound of dawn, striking the ground echoed. Not only the warriors, but all the villagers stomped their feet, eagerly awaiting the warrior's entrance. The warrior had been sitting beside the chief. Even when Sieg appeared, he hadn't so much as twitched. But when called and urged by the rhythmic stomping, he stood up, spear in hand. The man was covered in bulging muscles and stood tall. He was easily over 2 meters tall. When he stood before Sieg, the difference was that between an adult and a child, yet Sieghart didn't falter. He crossed his arms confidently and stood up at the man. You gotta do an Edis pose. Time to show him mom's pose. For the third time, I declare my name. I'm the North Emperor Sieghart, the one who protects Pax and will live alongside him. My name is Herpel, the greatest warrior of the Ubaba tribe, the one who will defeat you. Herpel's voice was as loud as Sieg's, if not louder. Combined with the stomping all around, it made him seem even more enormous. Pax began to feel anxious, coupled with the fact that he'd only been drinking water the past few days. The scene before him made him feel uneasy. Sieg, don't worry, Pax. I'm invincible. No matter how strong the opponent, I will claim victory. I mean, this is the whole aspect of, like, Pax over here should be pretty familiar with how good Sieg is, but the fact that Sieg claimed that he is a North Emperor should give Pax a little bit of confidence here. I mean, we don't know what this dude is. I would assume this random tribe member is pretty strong, but how strong, question mark? I mean, technically this tribe has been taking out guards and whatnot, but are these guards that strong? I mean, again, it's not as if Pax has tons of money here. It's not like he has resources to buy extremely skilled people.
seeing you this confident for the first time since our school days. Somehow, that just makes me even more nervous. Then I'll blow away those worries in an instant. With that, Sieg placed his hand on the hilt of his sword. The great sword's black blade gleamed dully in the torchlight. If a child were to hold it, or even an adult, or even an average swordsman, they wouldn't even be able to lift it because of its hidden weight. Its name was Moon Glitter. Sieg drew it effortlessly with one hand and then gripped it with both hands. He turned the sword sideways and lowered it to his waist in a ready stance. Here we go. Although the words were different language, Herpel understood their meaning. After all, words weren't necessary between warriors. Herpel leveled his spear at his waist and let out a roar. Whoa! Gah! Herpel's roar was drowned out by Sieg's roar. At the same time, the two of them clashed. The first thing to collide wasn't their weapons. It was their shoulders. Since they had taken similar stances, their tactics were the same. This wasn't strange at all. Herpel had read Sieg's intention to slam his opponent with a powerful shoulder tackle, blow him away, and in the moment his balance broke, deliver a fatal strike. And Herpel had accepted this challenge head-on. I'll blow away a small fry like you instead. That was his thought. The instant they collided, what Herpel felt was like he crashed against a sheer cliff. The moment his shoulder touched Sieg's, he had the illusion that he had slammed into a cliff. Don't hurt poor Cliff. We ran it. What? It's been this entire side chapters we finally bring up Cliff in a fight. Sorry, stupid joke. But he quickly realized it was only an illusion because cliffs don't push back with tremendous force. Whoa. Herpel spun once and rolled across the ground. For someone like him, born with a massive body since childhood, there had been only 3 times in his entire life that he had fallen like that. The first was when he was a child, during his first training session with his father, when a body slam sent him tumbling. The second was when, in his younger days, fired up with ambition to be recognized as a warrior, he challenged a gigantic monster 3 times his size and was sent flying. And now, this was the 3rd time. Ever since his body had matured and had become the greatest warrior of the Upapa tribe, he never once had been toppled, much less by someone smaller than himself. From where he sat on his backside, he saw a terrifying sight. Sieg had sunk his hips low, tensing every muscle in his body, about to unleash all of his power. The sword at his waist was touching the ground, slowly pressing into the earth. Northgard style, secret technique. Herpel didn't understand the meaning of those words, but he understood that something terrifying was coming. Moonlight slash. Sieg swung his sword upwards. From a low stance, he slashed upwards, using the ground itself like a scabbard. The strike was faster, stronger, and far more destructive than any attack Herpel had ever seen. A shockwave erupted. The slash tore through the air, as if splitting space itself. For the first time in his life, Herpel experienced being blown away by a shockwave alone. The warriors and villagers surrounding them were also all blown back at the same time. The shockwave showed no sign of stopping. It smashed the bonfire to pieces and sent the flames scattering far back into the distance. The sheer force gave birth to 2 spiraling tornadoes, which consumed the chief's house behind the bonfire and reduced it to splinters. This keeps building up into something bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Then suddenly they realized the entire mountainside had disappeared. It's the first time we get to see him actually using an actual sword, and it just literally obliterates a location. Then it slammed into a massive sacred tree. Well, it looks like peace talks are going to be a little more difficult now. I'd be shocked if they could pull off peace talks after this, besides the fact that they're just going to be terrified of him. Which, at that point, I would really question their religion. Like, if these guys are like, oh, wow, we're afraid of this guy, but, forget about the fact that he just destroyed this thing that's sacred to us that we've been worshipping. Then it slammed into a massive sacred tree even further behind, striking it with a deafening bagagan. What? A bagyagan? What is that kind of a onomatopoeia? A bagyangan. Bagyangan? Bagagagan. Bagagagan. Anyways, leaving a deep dent. When the chaos finally ended, only an open, empty space remained. The bonfire was gone. I wonder if that bonfire is going to create a massive fire, unless this area is, moist and not dry. And in the darkness, only the light of the full moon shone through the area. It was silent. In that still, silent space, only Sieg stood. His sword, pointed towards the heavens, glittered faintly in the moonlight. He's going to strike a pose like Alec did in the cover. the whole like Star Wars pose. Did you see that? This is my power. The power of the one who is a friend to Pax. God, dude. He's totally just so excited to finally be at Pax's side. This like his choice that he made. He's gonna lean into it. This is super cheesy crap. Stupid cheesy crap. He plunged his sword into the ground, standing tall and proud as he shouted. There was no one else around him, only Sieg, because Pax and the chief had been... Oh, this is so darky. I was actually expecting like it to explain at some point that Sieg was, of course, on the ground over here, so he didn't get hit by the blast wave. But no, Sieg just literally blew everybody away. Which makes sense, again, because, I mean, unless he's been fighting things along the way, he probably has not wielded his sword for so long and doesn't really even acknowledge his own power when other people are around. Again, he's seemingly just used it recently again to combat with his master, but there was nobody else around. Only Sieg, because Pax and the chief had been blown away as well. From the shadows, one figure slowly approached, a dark-skinned giant man, the greatest warrior of the Ubaba tribe, Herpel. Perhaps his arm had been broken from the impact of being blown away as he held his upper arm while staggering towards Sieg. Why? Why didn't you kill me? Because I swore in the name of my father that if I defeat you, you and your people will become Pax's friend. I will not kill friends. I've lost. When Herpel said this and dropped to one knee, bowing his head, the surroundings began to stir again. Those who had been blown away were returning, the warriors, the villagers, the chief, and Pax, and they saw it. The moment the greatest warrior of the Ubaba tribe fell to one knee, the moment of defeat. Pax and the chieftain walked towards the two of them. The duel has been settled. This is our defeat. We shall respect your vow and forgive your master. You may go. The chieftain said this with a stern expression. The battle between Sieg and Herpel. It was a fight every warrior present acknowledged. Sieg had defeated Herpel purely through strength, without any underhanded tactics. There was no room for objection to the outcome of the fight. The next time we meet, even if defeat is certain, we will fight with all of our might alongside our warriors. However, this was not the end. They had lost this duel, but if these people were to return and attempt to cut down the sacred trees again, the fight would surely resume. Even after witnessing Sieg's strength, both the chieftain and his warriors chose pride. Again, it's not pride. That was what I was saying earlier. I'm thankful that this is how it's laying this out, because what I got an impression of earlier was this idea of like, yeah, if Sieg wins, then suddenly magically this tribe is all wants to be buddy-buddy with them. And yeah, the fact that they literally dropped the hut on top of the sacred tree, they're just going to go shrug. Oh, well, because Sieg beat us and he's super powerful, thus we'll just get rid of this entire religion that we've been built on. No, this makes sense. This is a tribe that has presumably been around for generations, and they worship these sacred trees. Why would they suddenly get rid of their religion just because Sieg's strong? If they're religious and actually truly believing in it, they'll die to protect those. If Sieg comes back himself and starts chopping at it, they're going to die defending it. This actually makes a lot more sense. Chieftain, I never swore to such a thing. The one who objected to this outcome was Sieg himself. I said I would make you Pax's friend. Friend? Friends, meaning allies. Chieftain of the Ubaba tribe. Purple, lend us your strength as friends. And, as friends, we won't do anything you dislike. It was a very one-sided declaration. For Pax, it was completely out of the blue. He wanted to shout, who gave you the right to decide this on your own? However, it wasn't a bad proposition for Pax. They were strong and knowledgeable about the jungle. If they joined forces, they would undoubtedly become powerful allies for managing the territory in the future. The jungle area was land he wanted to develop, but if there was a way for the people to live there without cutting down the forest, then there was no need to cut the trees. Of course, some trees would still need to be felled, but based on what has been discussed so far, it seemed that cutting anything but a certain special tree wouldn't be a problem. Since they all spoke Fighting God language, they could communicate and decide which trees to cut through discussion. For the chieftain, however, this was not an appealing offer. Interesting, yeah. I mean, Sieg's got a point here. It's very simple-minded, but it's logical. We can just go around. We don't have to cut everything. Now, technically, a more dominant mindset would be the idea of, well, just have Sieg wipe him out. Again, that's kind of more in the cruel area. Do you really want to do that? Technically, it seemed like Pax initially wanted this. Pax was like, okay, communicate, trying to, find a commonality here. He was apologizing for doing what they did. But at the end of the day, what's the benefit to the actual tribe? If we make some sort of bond with you guys, if we make some sort of agreement, what do we get? We're fine on our own. We don't need your stuff. Unless Pax can find something that they need. If Pax can offer them something in return. Until now, they had lived without any inconveniences. Pax was, in essence, an invader, and they were simply trying to drive him away. There was no reason for them to join hands, but the chieftain had made a vow sworn to all spirits that govern this world, to honor the victor's vow. That was something the Ubaba tribe considered more important than anything else. Very well, from this day forth, we, the Ubaba tribe, are friends to Pax. Allies. What does that even mean, though? It's like, what does that even mean? Does that mean that we don't attack people that come in there? Does that mean that we're only, like, nice to Pax? Everybody else we kill? Do we... I guess... And that's one of those things, like, if your vow is that important, why would you so blindly accept something? I get this with, like, a lot of these stories where, like, their vows are, like, concrete. If you make a wish upon this, if you swear upon this, you have to follow it to death. And yet there's so many cases where they just so blindly walk into something. It's often the idea they're just overconfident, but, like, again, super foolish to kind of go along with something like this without really kind of understanding it. Thus the chieftain declared that proudly. The Ubaba tribe had now become Pax's friends, his allies. Then let's feast and celebrate our new alliance. And once it's over, let's rebuild the house I destroyed. He's a dork, dude. And so that night, a forceful feast of friendship was held. Pax drifted through the somewhat tense feast and the meeting where they established the minimum agreement with the Ubaba tribe as if in a dream. While being escorted back to the fortress by the warriors, Pax turned to Sieg and asked, "Hey, Sieg, am I dreaming right now?" "Dreaming? Maybe when I was stabbed in the chest earlier. I only dreamed that you came to save me, and I am now right now on the verge of death. Everything's been going so conveniently. I am honestly confused." When Sieg heard this, he casually pinched Pax's cheek. Pax's soft, squishy cheek was stretched, and sharp pain shot through him. "Ouch! Ow! Stop it!" "If this was our dream, it wouldn't hurt that much, right?" "No, the Sieg I know isn't the kind of guy who would suddenly pinch someone's cheek like that. This might still be a dream." A little different. Come on, face reality. Sieg shrugged his shoulders. Then he placed his hand on Pax's shoulder. "I've been meaning to give you my answer to that day." "Your answer to that day?" "I'm going with you, to help you fulfill your ambition." When he said that, Pax looked shocked. He pressed his lips together tightly, as if holding back something, lowering his chin. With a face on the verge of tears, he nodded and said, "Thank you. I knew you'd say that." This is what I wanted back there. This is what I wanted back there. See over there, over there, on there, over there, over there. Gosh. Again, I had that like whole mindset of like his father just like sitting there in the palace looking down at all the flames and bonfires and all the soldiers down there that want to storm this castle. "See all that down there? Nobody likes me. They all hate me. You too, Zenoba. You don't actually care about me. None of you care about me." This Pax right here, he's felt alone. And then, as he began to cry, he spoke those words. And then final chapter, in the future, a hero. K499, we're jumping all the way up there. Jeez, dude. Several decades passed after that, and this is I was actually kind of hoping for this whole thing to jump forward and kind of give similar to Odysseus' thing. Hopefully, unlike with Odysseus' thing, hopefully there's a little bit of explaining in the middle of here, and we don't just jump straight to this thing and say, "Oh yeah, BioWare is dead," and there's this whole war thing happening. Several decades passed after that. The King Dragon Realm Knights territory. It was an enclave of the King Dragon Realm, located in the northern part of a dense jungle area that once belonged to no nation. It was a small territory, scarcely larger than a cat's forehead. Okay, so this is what they've renamed the territory that Pax had, I'm guessing. It was said to be the most monster-infested region in the southern part of the central continent, and even powerful nations had long deemed it to be difficult to develop. Naturally, it had never even had a name like Knight's territory. But the appointed lord, Pax Cerrone Jr., transformed the land. He developed the jungle region, long thought impossible to cultivate, skillfully utilized the surrounding people he built dams to direct rivers, held back monster incursions, and gradually cleared the forest to expand his domain. When he encountered ancient tribes living in the jungle, he would drink with their chiefs, talk through things, marry their daughters, and bring them under his control. What? 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 Wait. A little more information? A little more information? It's like they're just traveling through the jungle and they're like, oh, there's another tribe over there. Let's go drink with the people. And they just like welcome them in. They all just start drinking together. And then Pax like, oh, by the way, I'll marry your daughters. All right, whatever. Interesting. And again, I get the idea that like being a political, benefit, hey, there's this powerful guy and he's building into this location. If you marry off your daughters, that ensures your tribe's going to be safe, that kind of thing. But I was kind of wondering if it'd be like one of those things where like you have this big, massive jungle area and there's like these little sacred trees here and there. And they just like, fence off the tree itself to clear everything else out and then just develop them a village to live in. Like, but again, would they want that? To attract talent, he prioritized ability over status. To a man who boasted he could turn any wasteland into farmland, he granted a large stretch of land. If the man succeeded in cultivating it, it became his. A penniless man who claimed he could establish trade routes for jungle tribe goods is now the king's territory's top merchant. A boy who had been once a slave showed promise with a sword and was taken in as a lord's retainer. That land became known for treating those of low birth with fairness. Rumors spread, and people flocked from all over. In truth, in the knight's territory, people could find work according to their abilities. Even the slavery system was better organized than anywhere else. That's surprising. We're this far into Pax's story before we even mention the idea of utilizing slaves. Because I think earlier when it was mentioning everything building up to the point that Sieg arrived, even then it wasn't talking about slavery. Even then it wasn't talking about using, slave trade. It's only until like they're building into sort of where they went after Sieg arrived. He still uses it. He still utilizes it. It was rare for slaves to die from illness or injury before sale. More than that, slaves were given opportunity to show their talents. If they had great skill, the knight's territory would buy them at a high price and treat them well. See, that's interesting right there, because that's not just the idea of essentially just making sure that they don't treat them wrong. Because again, like I said earlier, even if you do regulate it, you'll still have underground trade. There's still going to be dark corners of the town that's going to not follow those regulations. Here, they're actually promoting well treatment of them, because if they can treat them well and educate their slaves, there's a potential that they can show potential, and then the knight's territory will pay more for them. They're basically encouraging well treatment, because if you treat them well, because if they show some promise, they can benefit the territory. By the time the country that controlled the Red Dragon's lower jaw noticed, it was too late. The knight's territory of the King Dragon realm had acquired vast land, population, and military, far beyond what one would expect from an enclave. Yeah, that's sort of what I kind of expected, again, because they were talking earlier about the idea of why it's so difficult to really build up is because it's so far away from their main capital. And so yes, because of that, word's not going to spread very quickly back. And even if a merchant comes down there and says, hey guys, they're doing some crazy stuff up there, likely a lot of people aren't going to believe them. Like, there's no way they're going to be able to cultivate it that much. What? They've expanded? What? They're building up? What? No way. With such a big gap in space and with slow travel and confirmations, yeah, if you can do it quickly, you're not going to really be able to do much. And again, even if you want to do much, you can't really, because you're going to have to bring an entire force all the way up there just to investigate or try to stop it. So yes, technically, because of how long it takes to travel, unless they actually have access to teleportation, which I doubt at this point, it seems like only, Ariel was really kind of jumping in on that. Without some sort of transportation other than traveling on foot, it's going to make it a lot more difficult to really stop this from happening. When the knight's army advanced, the southern border was entirely undefended. As a result, the King Dragon Realm's knight's territory came to control the entire eastern region of the Red Dragon's lower jaw, and it became a land generating immense profit for the King Dragon Realm. Though the kingdom had always found Pax bothersome, they had no choice but to reward him. However, Pax was still royalty, who in a way possessed his own territory. His growing power displeased the princes and ministers vying for the throne. Therefore, the kingdom made Pax swear a knight's oath and was appointed as commander of a newly established knight's order. The knight's oath is for the king. As long as Pax kept that oath, he could never claim the King Dragon Realm's throne. Interesting. I was not really expecting this route for this whole thing. My assumption was going to be that he was going to gain so much power, and then at some point, they were going to want to crush him, and then Pax was going to fight back, and using some sort of knowledge and quick wit, he ends up completely destroying them, just through sheer cleverness. He still displeased them, they still didn't like his existence, and they still feared him, and they were probably seeing there was a chance that he was going to try to steal the throne. So instead they chose the oath, which is clever. If Pax keeps to it, there's a chance that Pax might go against it, but then that would be like a dishonor. I guess it really depends on if Pax even cares about that. As long as Pax kept that oath, he could never claim the King Dragon Realm's throne. Breaking that sacred vow would mark him as a traitor. Few would side with him then, and if he refused to take the oath, that would be fine too. It would give them grounds to pressing the king to rescind his reward. Interesting. I kind of would assume that either Pax wouldn't accept this or he would later double-cross them or find some reason to. Because again, what was Pax's ultimate goal? He wanted to make his own kingdom. If he swears his oath, he might potentially not be able to do that. They wanted to reclaim his growing territory, but that territory, due to its dense jungles and foreign ties, was difficult to govern. If not left to Pax, until it stabilized, everything might collapse and go to waste. The ministers and princes all thought so, but despite their scheming, Pax readily swore the knight's oath. Surprising. Maybe he doesn't care anymore. Maybe he's just fine with what he has. And that makes sense. I mean, it's not that... Even if he doesn't have, like, his own kingdom, if it's not called the Kingdom of Pax, it might not matter. He might have enough power right now. It doesn't have the name that he wants and the title, but he still has everything else, so it doesn't really matter. He's comfortable. He's got enough, basically. He pledged to devote his life to the king and protect that territory in the king's name. Thus, Pax became the commander of the newly established Knight's Order. Thus, the Order of the Black Dragon was born. He immediately appointed 5 of his most trusted subordinates as Archknights. Each of them recruited 20 men and made them knights. As a result, a total of 100 knights were formed, and the land became the Black Dragon Knight's entrusted domain, the Knight's territory. No one of the King Dragon realm knew that Pax's ambition lay elsewhere, far from the throne. Oh, we know it's not Ashra Kingdom. King Dragon Realm Knight's territory, main castle, the Black Dragon Castle. In its conference room stood a massive long table made of black iron. 7 individuals were seated around it. All were clad in jet black armor. Starting from the side closest to the entrance, a man with dull blonde hair, narrow thread-like eyes, pointed ears, and a cross-shaped scar over scales on his face. Once a slave, he had been discovered for his sword skills and taken in. A saint-rank Northgod-style half-demon, loyal hound knight, Jeddah. Next, a man with dusky skin and black hair with several braids were tied behind his head. Though his clothing matched the kingdom's norms, his muscular build surpassed everyone present. Tribal knight, Herpopple? I'm guessing that's the the son or something of the last guy? That wasn't the same name, right? I think it was different. It sounds similar because it was like the whole herpy thing, but still. It sounds similar. Sounds similar. Hippopple. Hippoppa. Hippoppa. Oh my gosh, he's named Hippoppa. A towering man with a gentle smile pasted on his face, broader than even Hippopple. But most of his girth came from his arms. He had massive black metal arms. Iron Knight. At most Lordron. A dwarf woman with a childlike frame, clad in toy-like armor. However, her face bore a depth of intellect that surpassed everyone else in the room. Dwarf Knight. Piku. And then, at the head of the table sat 3 more. To the right of the center seat sat a woman, dusky skin, blue hair, barely 20 years old. Though young, and although she was a knight, she was not an archnite. However, she was second only in status. Screaming Princess Lahari Sharon. Screaming Princess? What the heck? Yeah, I guess that's going to be his daughter? I mean, she's barely in 20 years old. And again, we're talking like all the way to $4.99. I'm guessing this is a daughter. Actually, probably a granddaughter, question mark? It depends on whenever Pax decides to pump out some kids. At the center, seated in the place of honor, was a castle's master, blue hair, deeply wrinkled face, an aged man, yet his body and eyes still overflowed with strength. Black Dragon Knight Commander, Pax Chiron Jr. To the left of Pax sat a middle-aged man with green hair, a great sword on his back, and another sword at his waist. His face bore countless scars. Not just his face. His armor and weapon's hilt also carried numerous marks. A figure embodied the phrase, a witness to 1,000 battles. He was a Black Dragon Knight's vice commander. No, the King Dragon Realm's strongest knight. A man who inherited the title of Death God. What? 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 I don't remember that from volume 26. What? A man who inherited the title of Death God, ranked 5th among the 7 great powers, Death God Knight Sigurd Saladin. What? Huh. Okay, that I wasn't expecting this. What? Yeah, and technically Randolph was 5th. No, for a minute there I thought that he literally just dethroned the Death God. So he fought Randolph, which I kind of wonder if this was intentional. That I wonder if at some point they sent Randolph to take down what Pax was doing. Because again, technically Randolph is still with that kingdom. Randolph is a soldier of them. They could have sent him up there to defeat them, and Sieg defeated him and then claim the title or claim the position. But this is implying that he took the title of Death God. So that implies to me that at some point, potentially, Randolph came up there, trained him, and then he took the title from him. But this at least implies, at least, he defeated Randolph. Otherwise, he would not be in this spot. What? What? I mean, this is putting a lot of more emphasis into the power that Sieg eventually gains. I should have seen this, honestly, because, again, if I remember correctly, the way they worded it was that Sieghart himself became the most strongest person in the Central Continent. That would imply that he would have to be at least stronger than the Death God. Now, granted, technically, the Technique God is, still on the continent too. But we're not gonna think that hard on it. Let's not think that hard on it. And yes, technically Orsted as well, but let's not think that too hard on it. Anyways, the 7 stared silently at the map spread on the long table before them. On the map, game pieces had been placed: cavalry, infantry, knight markers. Anyone who looked at the colored arrangement of pieces would immediately recognize it was a 3-way deadlock between the Austria Kingdom, the King Dragon Realm, and the Ogre God Empire. So that at least implies that the King Dragon Realm is still around even at that point, that the Ogre God Empire is, again, in some sort of disagreement with Austria Kingdom, and that the King Dragon Realm is still down there. I don't remember if they implied that the King Dragon Realm was still around. If the war continued as it was inevitable that the Knights' territory, guarding key strategic points, would also be drawn into the conflict. Once caught in a war between great powers, even the elite Black Dragon Knights could easily be blown away like dust. It wasn't hard to imagine. From the placement of the pieces alone, the Knights' territory was on the brink of destruction. The 6 others waited silently for Pax to speak. Interesting. Again, the assumption here again is you have, again, the Ogre Kingdom is this entire upper area of the Central Continent. Then you have the Austria Kingdom is over in the west. And then I would imagine that, again, with the whole, forest and everything like that, with that whole, literally being this point of a bordering there, that this region is down, in the southern area of the Austria Kingdom, right there at the tip of it. So how does this conflict right here drag them in? Unless, again, to a point they were kind of bringing up with Odysseus chapter, that there was a opening that potentially could go into the area of, the conflict zone that they can get through. But that all stems on how much these kingdoms have really spread since then. We can look at the old map that we got from the early stages of the novel series, but is that map even close to what is resembling right now? These territories can be completely changed at this point. Either way, with them right there, I guess technically it could be playing the idea of the King Dragon Realm getting involved. And they're right there. They're right there sandwiched. The 6 others waited patiently for Pax to speak. They were waiting, eagerly, tensely, and Pax, as if answering that expectation, finally opened his mouth. At last, the opportunity has come. He's gonna steal the kingdom. While they're all conflicted up there, it's time to take the King Dragon Realm, I bet. It's probably time to take the King Dragon Realm. His words contradicted what the map showed, yet not one person objected. I think a lot of these people, if they know Pax, like Sieg does, they know it's coming, depending on who he's told. If he trusts these people enough. And I can see that whole idea of it like being against what's on the map. You have all this conflict up here. It's time. We're going to notify. They all understood. This was precisely the moment they had been waiting for. The time we long awaited has arrived. At those words, everyone present tightened their expressions. Papa and P even smiled faintly. When I think back, it's been a long and painful road. No opportunities, only one crisis after another. And yet, you endured it all and followed me faithfully. Pax spoke with a deep emotion. As he looked at each of them, he had been remembering everything that had brought them to this point. Jetta's facial scar came from defending Pax's honor when it was about to be dragged through the mud. The title of greatest warrior of the Ubaba tribe had died many times over since the day Pax formed a sworn bond with their chieftain. Hipapa was the fourth. Atmos's arm had become magical prosthetics when he took Pax's place during an assassination attempt where he was about to be framed by another member of the royal family back in his homeland. Everyone here knew how Piku had been captured and raped by the enemy. As for the scars on Sieghart's face, his sword, and his armor, they went without saying. I won't let this opportunity slip away. Otherwise, your devotion would have all been for nothing, so said Pax, staring back down at the map. The Orgod Empire, a newly risen nation that had taken the entire northern region, the Asura Kingdom, ruler of an entire western region since ancient times, and the King Dragon Realm, holding roughly the southern half, watching the other two's movements. The Knight's territory sat right at the center of these three nations. See how they're describing that? I'm now starting to think this is sort of in the conflict zone area, because that area is very lush. I was thinking more way down their south end of that mountain range. On the map, it shows this little path that comes up. I wonder if it's much higher, because otherwise it wouldn't be in the center of those three nations. It's got to be up there higher in the conflict zone. Huh. But again, they never brought up the idea of the conflict zone, nor like it being developed into the King Dragon Realm. Pax saw this situation as an opportunity. We will use this war to declare independence. Yeah, right. Strong responses echoed from the knights. Pax moved 3 of the 7 pieces, representing his forces, from the knight's territory into the red dragon's lower jaw. Atmos, P, and I will stay behind and fortify the defenses. We will turn the checkpoint in the red dragon's lower jaw into a fortress, just as the king of the King Dragon Realm instructed. Yes, sir. Understood. The 2 nodded. Then Pax moved another 3 pieces to the center of the Red Dragon Mountains, right at the point where the mountain range split into 2, known as the Red Dragon's Cheek. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, it's technically lining up to what I was saying. He literally had the pieces down there at that lower area of the mountain ranges, and he just moved it up to that point in which it tees out. So I wasn't off originally thinking there. Jetta, Hapapal, and Sig, you 3 will take a small force and infiltrate the area. Take out the Orgod Empire's hidden fortress. Oh, that's not good. That's not good. How many pages do I have? No. This is not ending this way. This is not ending that. What? I'm running out of pages. Again, my assumption is that the fortress that Otis is at is right there. That was my prediction, because again, it was implying this idea of this being this way around normal pathing to get to Asura Kingdom. This was a strong point. And right here, he's even implying this hidden fortress. Redundancy 3. It implied it was a hidden fortress, because there was a spy that was getting information out, and that's why they had to go take them out. Otis is at some hidden fortress at some little strategic point up there that apparently is a way around Osran's, forces or their borders or whatever. Refugin, are we legit ending this with implying that Sieghart is going to have to go up to a hidden fortress where Otis is at and take him down? What? What? I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like where this is going and how this potentially is going to end right here. Okay. Understood. 2 nodded, but the last, Sieghart, remained silent. Does he know? His With his arms crossed, he glared at the map, his expression unchanged. Sig, what is it? Do you see something off? At that question, Sieghart gave a faint laugh. No, just thinking. We've finally come this far. I remember the day right after you were granted this territory. You were almost killed by the Uboa tribe. Seems like yesterday. So it was my hope that he was going to know. Yeah, if you hadn't shown up, I'd probably be fertilizer under a Bashakara tree by now. A lot has happened since then. Yeah, a whole lot. They both reflected on the events up until now, sentimentally. It started with just the two of them. Then they became 3, then 4. Sometimes they lost people, but in the end, it became 6. 6 was said to be an unlucky number, but for the Black Dragon Knights, it had become the luckiest of all. Grandfather, Sig, I hate to interrupt your moment of reflection, but what about me? The one who spoke up was Lowry, Screaming Princess Lowry, as one of Pax's granddaughters. Okay, there's the answer there. I was like either daughter or granddaughter, depending on how late he's still keeping busy. As one of Pax's granddaughters, she showed great talent, both as a knight and as a commander. So Pax had given her an elite education, raising her as one of his officers. She had already fought in her first battle and earned enough merit to sit in this meeting. However, in a situation this critical, she was still too young and inexperienced to lead on the front lines. You'll stay behind and guard the castle. Can you do that? Of course, grandfather. Though I'm disappointed not to be on the front. I'm smart enough to understand how important it is to guard the rear in a situation like this, so I won't complain. If you defend it well, I'll give you a reward. I'll hold you to that promise. With a bright smile, Lowry adjusted herself in her chair. After a brief silence, each person naturally reached for a cup before them and stood up. To our country of citizens and knights. All of them drank the contents in one go and slammed their cups down on the table. The black iron cups rang out like clashing swords as they struck the black iron table. It was the sound of a battle. We march. At Pax's command, everyone sprang into action. Jeddah and Hippopel, Atmos and P, Lowry, and finally, Pax and Sieghart walked out side by side, left behind in the meeting room, were only the black iron long table and the empty cups. They would remain there until the day the knights returned to sit again at the black iron table, raise those same cups, and toast once more. Jobless Oblige. The end. So that implies they win. That implies they're going to succeed. By that statement, they will sit there again and raise those cups again. That implies that whatever they're about to do, they're going to win. They're going to send forces down there. They're going to take that one stronghold. Sieghart's going to make it back. I don't like this ending. This ending sucks. This ending is legit, dude. I legit hate this. Like, I actually overall like this entire side story. Like, Jobless Oblige, legit, I'm surprised how much I enjoyed this entire story. But that ending sucks. And again, they technically brought that up a little bit in Redundancy 3. It brought up the idea that Otis was there, and he was defending that castle or that stronghold, and that something was coming. That he was going to defend it by himself. So it kind of leaves it there as like this big massive question mark as to why these people are fighting right now and all this kind of stuff. But this sucks more because this implies that he's going to have to defend it from literally his brother. Otis is going to have to fight his brother. Now, there's a chance that Sieghart gets there, realizes that Otis is there, and then comes back down and says, hey, dude, I don't want to take over the fortress because my brother's there. I don't see that. Because everything seems to be implying the idea there's sort of a disconnection here. That Sieghart has decided, I'm going to follow Pax. I'm going to help him out. If we end up on the battlefield, like Father was saying, we'll be enemies. We'll fight. It doesn't really matter. Crappy ending, dude. I don't like this ending at all. Oh, gosh. Anyways, that's Jobless Oblige, guys. We're finally done. Holy crap. Whew. I mean, putting aside this ending, it's a cool seeing how, again, he's standing at Pax's side, which you sort of get the assumption that's going to be the case from like earlier moments of this story, that eventually he was going to fight at Pax's side. That was going to be his choice. Was not expecting him to take the Death God title. That was crazy. Seeing him rise to an extremely powerful position, which is really cool as well, but really cool ending in the end, besides it being sort of a cutoff to some big conflict that I'm assuming at some point Refugion's going to go around to talking about. We're hinting at it so much with Redundancy 3. Now we're hinting at it again with this ending. Please, Refugin, stop teasing this crap. Give us the full story. But yeah, like I said, overall, I surprisingly enjoyed Jobless Oblige. Now, I will, getting into my actual rating, which we got to get into, my overall rating of this volume is really kind of a struggle for me because I feel like there's 3 different storylines here. There is the school days of Sieg, and namely Pax. Then there's the build up to some sort of conflict in the adult timeline, and then there's the action point. And it seemed like most every single one of these chapters were built that way. I really like the school life stuff with him and Pax. It's mainly around the fact of his experience with Pax. I love the story of Sieg and Pax, which just makes me really like the ending of this whole story. It's building into him going to Pax. Pax and Sieghart's story in this entire thing was the nugget of gold that I loved about Jobless Oblige. The other part that I really, really like is these goofy, stupid moments between Sieg and his master. So much fun. I had so much fun reading those moments, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I wanted to get into it for the Mushoku Mondays. I think getting into it, getting into character, saying out those lines, I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was fun. It's dorky. It's goofy. But even still, there's like substance in there. I like those moments of seeing sort of not just Sieg, but seemingly Alec himself kind of self-reflecting, especially that later part between the two of them. It felt like, again, him saying, you still have time to be a hero. Step up, be a hero. Can kind of wonder if a lot of that's going to be in the ogre kingdom, the ogre tribe kingdom up there. Is he somewhere up in there? Seeing him kind of push his master was pretty cool as well. But again, I love their moments together. A lot of fun stuff there. The only part that I'm really, truly disappointed about in this entire thing is Rudius again. Again, this is, I'm sorry, it's kind of similar to the whole situation with Redundancy 3. I feel like Refugin's getting in a pattern. And again, it technically implies that this happened with Lucy too. There's like this weird pattern where despite the fact that Rudius was supposed to have learned something from Otis, he did the same thing to Lucy, and he did the same thing to Sieg. Like, this is the formula that Refugin has decided to handle all of the kids of Rudius' family. That they have massive misunderstandings, and then at some point, Rudius suddenly talks to them and says extremely perfect things and completely fixes everything with his words, and then they have this new purpose in life, and they execute on it. It feels too samey to Redundancy 3, unfortunately, and that's the bummer thing. That said, putting Rudius aside, Sieg's story was solid. I did like this element of, again, this person that was too comfortable with what his father has sort of, influenced into effect, and then experiencing prejudice, experiencing racism over here, then kind of breaking a lot of his life, playing it out as if he's this, ally of justice, until eventually he realizes he's just been lashing out. I like that little flip there of the script of, you're not actually a hero. You're just lashing out. You're just trying to find somebody to beat up. You don't actually care about people. You're not actually doing this for good. You're just venting your frustrations. It was a solid little bit there. I think overall, again, besides my little misgivings there about how things are handled with the parenting aspects, it was a really good little story here. I'm actually surprised how much I enjoyed it. I think when I first opened up Jobless Oblige, I'm like, Sieghart, I don't know if I'm actually going to enjoy this. I don't think it's going to be a good story. Nothing has shown me about Sieg's story that's going to be interesting. I was surprised. Really did enjoy it. So where does it actually sit? That was a lot of yapping to get around to my rating of this one. B+. I'm thinking I'm between A- and B+. I think potentially, I think B+. I think a B+ is probably solid for it. I might look at my tier list again later on, and when I finally get to my final decisions, I might adjust things around. But I think right now I'm sitting at a B+. It might go up to A-. I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna go with my gut on this one. As much as I just talked it up, it's really just an aspect of like I enjoyed my time here, but I don't want to overly sell that this is like some sort of like game-changing stuff in here. It was just a really fun read with some really good moments of Pax and all that kind of stuff. But I think that's where I'm sitting. But anyways, that is Jobless Oblige. We will see. I'm gonna talk with some people. We'll see where we're gonna go next after this. If it's gonna be, Roxy gets serious. If it's gonna be Subjugation, I think, was the other one that they were talking about, which kind of fits in here. I think there's also like the last of the family leaves the nest or something like that. That particular story, we'll see, but you'll all see next week. But thank you guys for dropping by for the premiere. Hey, chat. Hope you guys had fun. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week after Mushoku Monday. Greatly appreciate you guys' support, your kind words, all that stuff. And yes, as usual, greatly appreciate the sports channel monetarily through Patreon, tips, links, super thanks, memberships. Thank you, thank you, thank you for you guys to part with your hard-earned money in order to support this. It means a great deal to me. But with that all said, hit the like button before you leave. Chat, hit the like button. But until the next Mushoku Monday, y'all take care.
I would probably be fertilizer under the Bashikara tree right now. I'd probably be fertilizer under the Bashikara tree right now. I would probably be fertilizer.
Pax's soft, squishy cheek was stretched. Pax's soft, squishy cheek was stretched. Pax was dragged before the Pax was dragged before the tribe's chief. Pax was dragged before the tribe's chief. Private.